All right, I'll call this meeting to order at 6 o'clock. Please pledge allegiance.
Note that Commissioner Perez is excused this evening. So we have Commissioner Gill,
Here.
Commissioner Jamu,
Here.
Commissioner Johnson,
Here.
and Chairperson Condit.
Here. All right, is there any conflict of interest by the commissioners? I will be recusing myself from item 3 due to a conflict. So Vice Chair Jamu, you'll take over for that one. We will move on to citizens' communications. While the Planning Commission welcomes and encourages participation in the Planning Commission meetings, adopted rules allow no more than 5 minutes for expression of non-agenda items, matters under the jurisdiction of the Planning Commission and not on the posted agenda may be addressed by the general public. However, California law prohibits the Planning Commission from taking action on any matter which is not on the posted agenda unless it is determined to be an emergency by the Planning Commission. Citizens are entitled to address the Planning Commission on any agenda item subject to the 5-minute provision. Is there anyone tonight in the public that would like to speak on citizens' communication? Yes, sir. Yep.
Did you hear me? My name is Barry Butrica. I live in Stonehenge. I lived there for over 30 years. The reason I bought the home is because of a cul-de-sac. We had children. The children were raised by now. And it was a
Excuse me, sir. Are you talking about item 2 that's on the agenda?
I can't hear you. There's people in the back.
Are you talking about item 2 that is on the agenda?
I'm talking about opening up Stonehaven to the...
Yeah, we'll discuss that in item 2, which is a public hearing. So if you could save your comments for that item. Thank you, sir. Is there anybody else that would like to speak? Mr. Warren?
Thank you, Commissioners. My name is John Warren. I'm a resident of the city of Ceres for 39 years. Back on September the 19th of 2022, I came before the commission here, and I don't think any of you were on the commission at that time when I came in 22. Maybe Mr. Johnson was on the committee, I think, or but what I brought up that evening for a review of the Planning Commission was the meeting of August the 5th of 2013, which concerned the Lazy Wheel RV park and what was going on there at that particular time in 2022. There were several trailers that were parked in the open field across from the high school. Apparently the owner of the trailer park at that time owned those and was storing them there for whatever reason. And there was like 4 of them out there, and they were there for a very long time. So I brought to the attention of the Planning Commission that Lazy Wheel, unfortunately, was supposed to have been dissolved and moved by 2018. The Planning Commission gave that ruling on that day that they had 5 years to dissolve, and that was the state of California selling it to a new owner, and the new owner was supposed to help in the relocation and movement of the people that live there. And of course, as we all know, that didn't happen, and the city and the county and the state failed those people. Well, I brought it to the attention here of the commission in 2022 to remind them of what the obligation was, and that didn't receive much response. So I'm here tonight to remind the commission of those things and asking that they do as much as they can to bring this issue forward. I know the Modesto Bee had an article, and there's several things in it that relate to this particular problem. But it says that the owners would receive an award, a cash award, to help them relocate. And if that is the case, a time frame needs to be established, and I think the state is involved in that. But what I did see in that Modesto Bee article is the state washed their hands of it and dumped it back in the county and the city's lap and gave the county and the city permission to act on this. I don't know if that's factual information. Sometimes things you read aren't what they really are. And so if the residents there did receive some funds to help them relocate, then the county and the city should step in and make sure that they receive the attention that they deserve before someone else is found in a shed that succumbed to a fire. So thank you very much, Commissioner.
Thank you, Mr. Warren. Anybody else for public comment? Is there anybody on Zoom who has public comment?
I see no hands raised at this time.
Any emails?
No, only I received some emails from Mr. Warren, but he discussed that topic, and I did print out copies of the emails that he sent along with the minutes he referenced, and so that has been handed out at the dais to all the commissioners, and it will be included in the record with the minutes of this meeting.
Do we have a correction to the agenda? I want to do that now.
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to make a correction to item 3 on the minutes. The agenda description states that it is the northwest corner, but it is the southwest corner, and the staff report also mentions northwest corner. However, the APN is correct, the maps are correct, so it's not a material change to the report that was received, so it's just a minor correction to that agenda title.
Okay, that will reflect. Moving on to the consent calendar. All matters listed on the consent calendar are routine in nature and will be enacted by one motion. If discussion is required, that particular item will be removed from the consent calendar and will be considered separately. Is there anyone on the commission who would like a consent item pulled for further discussion? Anybody in the public? Anybody on Zoom?
I see no hands raised at this time.
Okay, with that, I'll make a motion to approve item 1. Yeah, Mr. Warren? Item 3? Okay. Well, it's a public hearing, so both of those are public hearings, so the public will have a chance. Yeah, this is just for the consent calendar.
I'll second it.
Okay. First and second, we get a roll call?
Yes, Chairperson Condit,
Aye.
Commissioner Johnson.
Aye.
Commissioner Gill.
Aye.
And Commissioner Jammu.
Aye.
Motion passes 4-0.
All right, moving on to public hearings. Can we get a staff report on item number 2?
Thank you, Chair. We're just going to pull up the slideshow. Thank you, Chair. This is the Evanshire Senior Living Project. This is a rezoning and a site plan approval. The proposed project, as you will see in the slide, is on a 2.1 acre site, and it is a 4-story, 81-unit senior living facility that will be located behind Evanshire Gardens, located at 1748 Evans Road. When the site is officially split, it will have its own address, but for this evening, we're using 1748 Evans Road. The access of the site will be on Stonehaven Way with an emergency vehicle access point from Evans Road. This is the site plan. You can see right from off of Evans is the Evanshire facility, and then behind it in red will be where the new senior living facility is located. And then on the right, we have the site plan. You'll notice there's a parking lot in front with access off of Stonehaven, and then the building will be located, and then there's an emergency route that will lead around the site out to Evans Road. The project site currently has a land use designation of high density residential, which means that when the general plan was updated in 2018, it was anticipated that this site would likely convert to a multifamily use and would be consistent with high-density residential zone. The density for HDR allows 20 to 30 dwelling units per acre. You'll note in the staff report, we talked about density, and at 81 units, it is above that density. It's about 38.5 dwelling units per acre. And as such, the project has taken advantage of state density bonus law, which allows you to increase the units on a site if it is a 100% senior housing project. It doesn't have to be an affordable project. It just has to be a 100% senior project, which this is. There is an age restriction, 55 years or older, to be able to locate here. On the next slide, you'll notice that the zoning, which is the second layer underneath the general plan, has a zoning designation of AP administrative professional. So oftentimes when you have an existing use, you don't want to make the zoning necessarily non-compliant because then it kind of causes issues if the project that exists wants to change in some way. So in this instance, we are going to leave half of the site where the event center is located to be AP so that the event center continue to operate. The back portion, which is a little over 2.1 acres, will be changed to R5. So a rezoning first is a recommendation from the Planning Commission, and then it will go to City Council for ultimate approval of the rezoning. But in order to make this project work, you need a conforming zoning designation, which is why we are proposing R5. That is a consistent zoning designation with the HDR land use designation. As I discussed, they are applying for a state density bonus. When I say apply, it's really just something we, the city, have to grant under state density bonus law. 100% senior housing projects are eligible for a 35% bonus. So currently 63 units would be allowed without the bonus. They are proposing 81, which is about a 28% density increase, which is under what they could be asking for a 35%. I want to also bring up that under state density bonus laws, projects that can avail themselves of state density bonus have the opportunity for concessions and waivers. Concessions and waivers are granted. A concession is like a reduction in a development standard that leads to identifiable cost reduction. So let's say we required balconies if we had a certain amount of required open space, and building balconies can be too expensive for a project to build. They can ask for a concession to say, hey, we can't build those balconies or we'll make the project infeasible. Another type of request would be a waiver. A waiver would be a reduction in any kind of development standard that would physically preclude the development of the project. So you ask for a waiver from that standard so that you can then build that project. In this instance, they are seeking a waiver for a height increase. Regular development standard has a 40 feet or 4 stories, whichever is less. Tonight, they are proposing a height increase of 50 feet, but still 4 stories. So it is an extra 10 feet, but it's still within the realm of our development standards of 4 stories. So we aren't necessarily granting that waiver because under state density bonus law, they are entitled to that waiver, but we're just trying to explain why they are at 50 feet rather than the limit of 40 feet. Next slide. Figuring that height could be an issue for the neighborhood, I asked them to prepare a vision diagram, and what you see here is what the neighbors to the west of them will see. So they're 2-story homes on that side of the project. There'll be trees planted, and which basically diminishes the view. A lot of people are worried about people seeing into their backyards. You'll see that with trees planted, as the landscape plan shows, views into backyards will be limited. And really, you'd have to be almost on the roof of this project to get a minimal sight line into a backyard. So based on the layout of the site, they were very conscious about putting it towards the middle, having a drive aisle, and having ample landscaping to kind of assuage any fears related to vision intrusion from the 4th story. Next slide. This is a closer look at the landscape plan. You'll see, the landscape plan. So you'll see that there's planting on the side of the site where there are homes. The project to the south is actually vacant. It's the old doctor's hospital, which is now being used by behavioral health. And they are also interested in potentially a future housing project. So it's kind of like housing adjacent to housing. And then the homes that are on the other side of Stonehaven are over 50 feet away from the building. So there shouldn't be any height intrusion into those yards. You'll have landscaping in the front. You'll have a nice presence from the street. So it really it's a better view than what the current termination of Stonehaven Way is now with just an open field. Next slide. This is just to give you some pictures of the elevations proposed. It's kind of Mediterranean, Italian, not Italiante, if you will, in nature. A lot of ins and outs, so there's movement in the building. Some balconies for the residents, so they get some outdoor space. It'll be a nice place for seniors in the community to reside. Next slide. Just different views of the building. Next slide. The project is exempt from CEQA under 15332 infill development projects. In order to be exempt, you have to be consistent with the general plan. It has to be development within the city. It has to have no value for habitat or endangered or rare species, and the site has to be adequately served by required utilities and public services, which there's services both in Evans and Stonehaven Way. So this site is exempt from CEQA review. Next slide. And so this evening, we're recommending that you find the project exempt from CEQA, and that should be recommend approval of the rezoning for the project from AP Administrative Professional to R5 High Density Multifamily Residential, and approve the project site plan. Recommend approval. Sorry about that. And the applicant is here if you have further questions for them or for staff.
Would the applicant like to make any comment before we open it up? Okay. We'll go ahead and open the public hearing. Is there anybody in the chambers that would like to comment on this item? Yes, sir.
Like I said earlier, I lived in the cul-de-sac for 30 plus years. The reason we bought that was because of the cul-de-sac. Now you want to take that away. It's not just it's a quiet way of living. Now you can open it up to a monster right around the corner. 4-story, 48 rooms, hundreds of people. There's other ways of opening it up besides going through Stonehenge. There's a hospital in the back with the wall. I've never seen people in that. It's always vacant. It's right. I mean, there's other ways besides destroying our area. Children won't be able to play in the streets anymore. Come on. They're going to be open 24 hours. You got people coming all different shifts. It's a small road. It's not a big road. You're talking about multiple cars coming. The value of our homes are going to fall. What you're going to do is destroy a family, destroy an area, really. Just because they can't open up another access to it, which is ridiculous. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anybody else?
My name is Scotty Payne. I live at 1804 Stonecrest Court. I back right up to Evanshire. I've called the cops numerous times on their parties when they go past 10 o'clock, because I do realize they have a permit for their parties. What I'm concerned with is the zoning. You're going to split it up and allow them to do this. And are they still going to have, I'm not too keen on opening up the back courtyard, but I live in the front courtyard. But I am concerned about the noise levels. And they have their permits and they have their weddings and their other assemblies or whatever you call them. And the noise gets crazy. And probably there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 houses in my court that we close all the doors and all the windows and it's still boom, 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 boom when they have their parties. And now you're going to split it up. I'd much rather see you rezone it completely so that, they can do away with the parties. That's all I have to say about it.
Thank you, sir. Anybody else for public comment? Mr. Warren?
Thank you, Commissioners. John Warren, City of Ceres. My question when I first looked at this was the height. And I didn't quite understand the explanation, but 50 feet, kind of like the motel we have down there at the Gateway Center, I think they adjusted the zoning rules for the height. Is this building going to be a rest home facility, or is it going to be apartments for elderly or senior citizens? I don't understand the actual purpose of the building. Is it going to be a senior citizen apartments for them to live in, or is it going to be kind of like a medical facility for residents that need that kind of service? And then I didn't understand the 50 feet. When you're going to have 4 stories with 40, what is the extra 10 feet for? Yeah, I didn't see that in the planning. Thank you.
Anybody else for public comment? Anybody on Zoom?
I see no hands raised at this time.
Any emails on this item?
No, I haven't received any emails.
Okay, we'll close the public hearing. I'll bring it back to the commission for further discussion and questions. Leah, can you touch on those 2 questions as when it comes to the 10 extra feet? And is this assisted living, or how does that, what is it compared to, if you will?
Sure. The 10 extra feet. So our code is honestly a little antiquated. I don't think you can get meaningful 4 stories in 40 feet. So the way the code is written, 4 stories or 40 feet, to me is not taking into account having some articulation in your roof, having a little more headspace. So 4 stories really fits more comfortably in 50 feet. And because of that, the code really should say 4 stories, and they should eliminate the notion of 40 feet or 4 stories. It should just be 4 stories, in which case this building is complying with that development standard. That 40 feet to me is just poorly written code, and that's the code we have to deal with. So when you have someone who's proposing a 50-foot story building, but still proposing 4 stories, they have to take advantage of the waiver. So you get better ceiling height, and the architect is here if I'm not explaining that correctly, and she can speak to the physical nature of the 4 stories, but you just get a better looking building with, you don't want crammed floors that are only 8 feet tall. It looks like a squash building. It's a little breathing room, better windows. It's a better view. And you really need those extra 10 feet to get appropriately 4 stories in there. And then the center is going to have a range. So you can be 55. I talked about it a little bit in the parking analysis as to the number of cars. You can have people in there that are not at the point where they're bedridden, but you can have residents there that are. So there will be staff for it's different stages of life between 55 and the end, if you will. So some people will be, it's assisted living in that you don't really need assistance, but you're living there, your family doesn't want you to live on their own, or you will be being taken care of with some nursing aid. And again, the operator is here if he wants to add to that. I did want to address the end of Stonehaven. Stonehaven is not a cul-de-sac. There's very, very specific, if you will, engineering designs of a cul-de-sac. Julian can put up the site plan, you'll notice that Stonehaven is actually dead end, and that property has legal access to Stonehaven. So to inappropriately say they can't use it would be denying them their right to use a public street. It isn't a cul-de-sac. It is, I understand, a street that has been a dead end for many years, but that property has always been able to access Stonehaven should they have the need, and they haven't had the need. By designated HDR, you'll need to, if that were to develop as a true regular multifamily project that could have ultimately 203 units, you would need 2 access points. So at some point, the redevelopment of this site would have access from Evans and from Stonehaven, and they have a legal right to do so. So they're taking advantage of that. And I do think that having a building there will also help with noise. That actually shields that neighborhood from noise from that event center. It should be kind of a plus, if you will. The noise will bounce off the building rather than going straight into the home. I think those are all the issues. I don't know if the operator wanted to discuss the units more than I did. I mean, did I accurately describe how it would be used? just the unit type, like assisted living from being mobile and fine to or needing some care?
Yeah, we can speak to that. We do have the owner of the property here, but he's a little hard of hearing, so I'm
Yeah.
jumping in here. My name is Peter Sandholt with FCGA Architecture. We're the architect for the project. It is a assisted living facility or a apartment facility, if you will. It does not cross over into a memory care type of facility. So there is not on-site medical, so to speak. The facility is obviously staffed, but it meets more of an assisted living type of facility. If you wanted me to just, I'll just speak briefly on the 40-foot height limit. You're absolutely right, Leah. It's almost impossible to fit 4 stories in a 40-foot height. Keeping in mind, if you have rooftop equipment, all that equipment has to be screened, and that would have to be below that 40 feet. We generally have a 5-foot tall 4 to 5 foot tall parapet to screen all of the mechanical equipment. That theoretically puts you at a 35-foot, roof height to be able to fit 4 stories. And in a project like this, you just can't do that. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Are there any questions from the commission?
Yeah, is there access from Evans right now with the current conceptual drawing?
They have access, if you go back to that site plan, it's a narrow access, just given the way the existing front looks. They have a, like a service entrance that's not, that they're gonna have to make wider to fit a fire truck, but the way that the front of the site operates, it doesn't really lend itself to be the main entrance of the.
Is it possible to have the main entrance off of Evans?
They explored that, but the preference would be to use Stonehaven to give a front to the building. It's, it would look weird to have a front of the building and then not be able to get to it that way. So they chose not to do that.
While we're speaking about the entrance point, is there going to be a gate at that point?
On the Evans Road, there likely will be a fire gate with a Knox box for a fire truck, but on the Stonehaven Way, it'll just be an open driveway.
Mm.
And again, it's not going to be an in and out like a regular, this site can have a regular apartment complex where you can have multiple people living in the units and multiple in and outs, working different hours of the day. This is an assisted living facility where you have visiting hours. It'll be restricted. People aren't going to be coming and visiting grandma at, 10 p.m. It'll be normal business hours. And then when people are done, they will be gone. But if they were to develop under the HDR land use designation as a regular apartment complex, you would have people in and out. There'd be no way to restrict that. So while there will be more traffic than exists today, yes, it's still controlled in that it's a senior facility where people go to visit. These drivers aren't most of the residents won't have cars. It's not going to experience the in and out that you would of a regular apartment.
But on the south end of it, would it make sense to have an easement there in place to where we could connect off of Memorial Drive in the future if that person was to submit a project?
I'm sorry, where would,
So you see Memorial Drive coming up on the back end of it?
Are you talking about behind this?
Yeah, right here,
subject
'cause you see eventually
Yeah.
connected
Yeah.
to have an easement.
Oh, yeah, that's somebody else's property. So I guess if they would like to grant them an easement, but you'd be at the,
Yeah.
it's a county-owned facility for them to want to share access, that would be a whole set of negotiation with the property that they don't control. So they can't guarantee that they would ever get that access, but if it could be granted, I guess, but I don't think that it's likely, given that it's someone else's own property. We can't mandate that the county give them an access to their site when they have a legal access from Stonehaven.
But just like how we're here, we left Stone even as a dead end. Can't they leave a dead end on that side? So in case the developer ever develops on that side, we could tie it into Memorial Drive.
But Memorial Drive,
Eventually, whoever the
Goes
owner
into
of
the
whoever the owner of that property is, say if they ever do develop something, we can have it to where they have to tie in that street, right? as part of approving any.
Memorial Drive, I want to say, since it leads into the complex, is probably a private drive. I
Okay,
don't
it's
think
private.
it's a city street that we could then
Okay.
take access from. It is a private drive.
It's private.
It's a private drive.
Okay.
So
Well, I guess my next round of questioning is about the rezone. So this entire lot, if you will, is AP Professional Zoning District. That's correct?
correct.
And this subject site was being considered to R5.
Just the 2.1 acres. So the next step will be to come in with a map and officially create 2 parcels, but it's not uncommon to have sites with split zoning. Does it happen a lot? No, but I mean, you can have a site that has, their ultimate goal is to create its own parcel. So they will be coming back to you with a tentative map if, should it be approved. But they don't necessarily have to, but that is their plan. So it will be, it's a completely separate parcel with a different zoning designation than the parcel that has the event center.
So what steps have been taken to rezone this other than this meeting?
Oh, this is the first step. I mean, this would be step 1. You
Okay.
have to bring it to planning commission for consideration, and then you recommend a rezone to council or recommend denial to council.
Okay. So the rezone would then go to council, and that's when public outreach would happen to neighbors, et cetera?
They had a public meeting, February 12th. So there was public outreach. The notice, they had a public meeting on February 11th. They sent out mailers to the community around it. So there was public outreach identifying the project, talking about what's going to happen. This was publicly noticed, this meeting, and then city council will be publicly noticed as well.
Did the applicant send out the notices to the, or was that the city?
The applicant sent them out, but we received one.
Can the applicant speak to that process and what that looked like? And what the meeting looked like as well?
Yes. We sent. Yes, we had a neighborhood meeting. Leah, you mentioned the date. I don't recall what it was. I was personally not present. Our principal, Galen Grant, was there. Dick Sargon was there. And Alyssa, who works for us, was also there. It's my understanding that we had 2 neighbors show up. One that was for the project and one that was against the project. And this meeting was held at Evanshire Gardens.
And the notice that was sent out from the applicant, it was just announcing the project, the community meeting?
Yes, that is correct.
Did it include this meeting as well?
It did not include this meeting.
Okay.
That was our regular standard notice
Notice.
that you're required. And I believe our notice, our private notice, was sent to the same 300-foot list or whatever.
Leah, what's the legal requirement on that? Is
300-foot radius, so it covered all of those. It's 300 feet from the property line, so we made them notice everybody, even across Evans, even though technically the project is behind the event center. It will be its own parcel, but at this time, the parcel is still 1, so we had them notice 300 feet surrounding the property, which hit all of the adjacent neighbors plus people across Evans Road.
Is this facility similar to Samaritan Village in Houston? Is it that sort of layout when it comes to assisted living?
The facility is actually very similar. They're just developing one right now in Modesto.
Okay.
And this is a similar project. I believe we're less number of units
Yeah.
than the Modesto project.
It's probably closer to Bethel without the memory care component, if you've know.
Yeah,
you've
correct.
worked With
Bethel,
Bethel,
yeah.
senior
Okay.
living on Scenic.
Was there a traffic study done for this?
There was no requirement for a traffic study, given that it's exempt from CEQA review and the small number of units and limited trips.
I mean, it's 80 some units, right? But we're saying only like 35 parking spots technically.
Correct.
So was that study that they did based off the peak hours or the parking spaces?
Parking spaces were based on the other uses that the company that's going to operate the assisted living has other facilities. I believe I discussed it in the staff report. They have a good, the best people to talk about traffic and parking needs would be the people who operate the facilities. They know how many tenants typically drive and who don't drive. You have people who are bedridden and then some individuals that are active. So based on their current facilities, I believe based on the data provided by the applicant for their other facilities, the average number of parking spaces typically provided is 2.4 spaces per bed. The applicant's recent facility in Modesto is providing 2.1 spaces per bed, and the series code for a similar use. We don't technically have an assisted living use, so we went for a residential care facility, which required 3 spaces per bed. And so they meet that requirement. So they don't need a traffic study to determine that. Is I guess my point. They have data that talks. Traffic study would be doesn't tell you how many parking spaces you need. Traffic study talks about trips. But again, this isn't when you think about a traffic study and you're using the ITE for an apartment complex, which this is definitely not an apartment complex. So that wouldn't be comparing apples to apples. In an apartment complex, you have people leaving every day from work at 8 o'clock between 7:30 and 8, and you have people coming home from work between 5 and 5:30. You do not have that here. So to use an ITE of an apartment complex would show that you're producing an unrealistic number of trips. So
Assisted care, so they're gonna have staff and employees, correct?
they'll have some, I believe they'll have 6 employees at different shifts. So they'll arrive, 6 cars will arrive. But
Can you guys confirm how many total employees?
Yes, I believe that.
My name is Dick Sargon. I am the owner's representative, not the owner. The owner is the Evanshire Senior Living LLC, which is a LLC of the Diocese of the Assyrian Apostolic Church of the East. The diocese is embarking on serving the people in Stanislaus County. We have such a project to start construction in a month or so. That one happens to be memory care and assisted living. This one, let me explain, it is assisted living for senior citizens. And most of the residents, we call them guests, are 65 years or older. The United States has 58 million people who are older than 65, and it's aging. We believe this is a very noble idea to it. It is completely segregated from Evanshire Gardens. Maybe we should rename it something else so that, because there will be a beautiful wall of, depending on what the city engineers, 8 feet that will segregate the 2 properties. The parking requirements are based, we employ third parties. FCGA are the architects who do these kind of buildings. The nominated contractor, we're looking forward to your resolution, is a local contractor, Huff Construction, out of Modesto, who's going to do our project in Modesto is called on Maple Avenue. Okay, it's 1384 Maple Avenue. It's a little bit larger space, but it's 90 units, but it is memory care. We employ a third party to manage these properties. It's called North Star Senior Living. They are headquartered in Temecula, California. They're serving 40 communities in California. From Sacramento, memory care in Merced, Walnut Creek, Glendale, Tarzana, San Diego area. These people are experts in running these things, okay? And their numbers, they run the numbers for us. The requirements for parking for facilities like this is really minimal. This is assisted living. They don't drive a lot, okay? And they frequently have family members to come and get them and visit with them. The facility, Mr. Director Lee, is equipped with a restaurant that serves them breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and that's part of the deal, okay? And we build these things Monday through Friday, 7:30 to 4. If there's any noise, we will announce it. This is a very, very quiet building. It will be beautifully landscaped. As you can see, the design is what we call Tuscan. And it's the whole environment that we're seeking here, with due respect to the entire area, is 2-3 notches higher in quality and service for this stuff. The company North Star Senior Living Values is exquisite in their services for that. They're not a multi-billion-dollar. This project will be owned by the LLC of the diocese. They're not investing to sell it. They're investing to develop more of these in the properties that they have bought in California, as far as Chicago, Toronto, and elsewhere, because they want to serve the senior living of the community. It is not a minority for Assyrians or anybody else. It's open for everybody. Any questions, please?
Also, I think, my concern isn't about the space or the parking. It's more about the access off of State Haven and, what.
I'm very hard of hearing, so I gotta ask my friend.
Yeah, so no, I understand, where you're going with, right? But my concerns are more about the access off of State Haven. So I do see that it was originally a dead end, but what the impacts are going to be to those residents there.
He's asking about the access off of Stonehaven.
Oh, Stone.
Well,
So-
when we prepared this thing, as we said, that's the best entrance for it. It would have not been appropriate to come in from Evans Road through the Evanshire Gardens. Evanshire Gardens does not belong to this project. And that access is the most suitable access. And I said, there is very minimal traffic coming into this place. And it's a very quiet place, and the lights are dimmed at 9 o'clock. And we actually provide a brand new van that is scheduled to people to take the guests or the residents, the shopping mall, to their doctor's appointments. The traffic impact is really minimal. And part of the access requirements is really your fire marshal, who has basically developed the access through the street and then through a new road adjacent to Evanshire Gardens, which is basically dedicated to the fire marshal to come in. There won't be traffic on that.
Question for the applicant, would you be open to adding a gate at Stonehaven? Because I know a lot of assisted living facilities have a gate on their entrance and exit points.
Would we be willing to add a gate at Stonehaven? We do have a gate off of Evanshire, obviously, because that is fire department access only. And from the fire district, they stated that that would be their route. They would enter off of Evanshire and then exit when they left the property. So they would not be
No, but
coming
if
through
they
the
wanna-
residence.
They want a gate.
But they wanted to put a gate. They
Oh,
were
no,
asking to put a gate at the end of the property.
One of the things, you listen to the management company, if you look at their sites everywhere, when you enter, there's a beautiful fountain. The landscaping is great. We've always maintained that we really need a gate for security purposes. But the staff, there is a security person there, and there's a 724 emergency nurse that she can answer if there's something. It's not 91111, but there is an emergency nurse. And we actually don't mind to have a gate there if necessary, if mandated.
You know, and I appreciate that. My thinking behind it is the residents on Stonehaven, I think, would appreciate separation from the entrance point. But if you're open to it, and I'd just like to see what the other commissioners think. But that would be my recommendation, because I think this is a noble project, as you stated. Senior assisted living projects are crucial. And you know, people say they're going to do something about it, and they don't. And it's very
We can
rare
make
to see
a
these sorts of
beautiful,
projects.
beautiful gate, and it will basically enhance the residential area as well as enhance this. We will put a gate in there, you know, so it is not a security requirement of the management company, but if the city requires that, that's fine with us. And again, a reminder, this is not independent living. This is not a retirement house. This is highly specialized assisted, senior citizen assisted living. Okay? And it's for, in most the communities that the management company does, residents are definitely over 65 years of age. They're quiet people. They're looking for, you know, and if you ever ask for statistics, 63% are women and the rest are men.
Any other questions for the applicant? Thank you, sir. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Leah, can you talk about possibly adding a gate there, and what you think about that?
I mean, I don't think either way it changes I do want to say they have Stonehaven, they have access to, that site has legal access to Stonehaven now. That you could have built a home and they could put in a driveway and you can drive from Stonehaven onto that lot. So we don't have a right to take a parcel's public access away. I know it feels like a end street, but it's adjacent to a parcel, and so that is their right to use that street. If you want to put a gate in there, I guess to give the notion that people aren't going to be just in and out, or I don't know, whatever you feel like it'll accomplish. I mean, I think they can put a nice gate in there if that makes the community feel better. I'm sure that's totally fine. I think we would just amend should you recommend approval with the change of adding a gate, and then it can move forward that way.
So would that require them to come back to the planning commission with that design, or just goes to council?
It would go to council. I mean, you would just say something with a gate off of Stonehaven that sufficiently, I guess if you could flesh out maybe what you think it's doing, sufficiently creates separation. I don't know, but it would just be added. So when the report is written to council, they'll say that the recommendation with the addition of a condition be added for a gate.
Okay. Commissioners, any discussion? What do you guys?
I mean, just as what I'm listening to, I personally, exit entrance on Stonehaven, I would, to me, see that as an emergency situation, because apparently the people who live on that street would not want to see an increase of traffic. I mean, that's a long entrance. I'm good with that, you know, because it's going to be slow driving. I think the facility's a wonderful idea, because I've heard I can't even tell you how long people waiting to get into Houston. I think it's a nice project. We just got to agree on, you know, the entrance. I just think an emergency exit entrance on Stonehaven.
You know, I do want to food for thought. You had at least 30 notices go out. You have one resident here concerned about access on Stonehaven. The community has had 3 opportunities. They will have 3 opportunities to come and discuss the entrance on Stonehaven. it makes for a better project to have an entrance off of Stonehaven and have that emergency exit off of Evans. If there was more community outcry, I could see that. We're talking about one voice, and everybody in that neighborhood was sent a mailer, not only from the applicant, invited to the center to have a conversation. My professional recommendation would be they have and I don't know if you want to hear from the city attorney, if he wants to comment, to say that they can't use their street access because it's a very difficult ask. And you can make that recommendation should you wish, but when they go to council, I mean, council can either take that recommendation and with that amendment or not. I haven't heard an outcry from the neighborhood. I've heard two people discuss it out of an entire neighborhood. The site doesn't flow to have their main entrance off of Evans and then have the fire truck. It doesn't make sense from a design perspective. The site is set back over 50 feet from that entrance. You know, you can't restrict people to use a public street. That site has a right to use that public street. It's going to be less usage than a normal apartment. Like if this was a 203 unit apartment, I could see the cause of concern, but you're not going to have the volume of people. And I don't want fear mongering of what could be to really detract from what is. And it's a senior living center with people who don't drive. Family members come once a week, twice a week. You're not going to see this volume. So to redesign the whole project so that it can take access off of Evans, I'd really like you to flush that out more before you make that motion tonight.
I think the gate's the happy medium. And what do you think of the gate, commissioners? Your turn on your mic.
Yeah, looking at the picture, I see that there's a fence and a gate there now.
You mean currently that they have it fenced off because it's an unsightly, overgrown field essentially. But when it's done, I mean, you can see on the landscape plan that it'll look like. I don't think the applicant's happy with the gate, has agreed to the gate. I don't think that if that makes you feel that it addresses an issue, I think that if they've made that concession, just add that condition.
Well, that would be my motion to approve with a gate added to the design for the entrance and exit of Stonehaven Way. I think that makes sense. It creates some separation from the residents on that street. And I think it's pretty common practice for assisted living. It's just an experience with other facilities in our area. But with that, I'll make a motion to approve with the addition of a gate on Stonehaven Way.
Second.
You get a roll call?
Certainly. Chairperson Condit,
Aye.
Commissioner Johnson,
Aye.
Commissioner Gill,
Aye.
Commissioner Jamu. Motion passes 4-0.
All right, passes. We'll move on to item 3. I will be recusing myself from this. Vice Chair Jamu will take over. Just grab me.
All right. Item number 3 is regarding the Mitchell and Roding Commercial Park. Leah, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Vice Chair. So this is the Mitchell and Roding Commercial Park project. This is actually a CPA amendment for the addition of a Starbucks drive-through and the relocation of the car wash on a previously approved project site that already contains a gas station, convenience store, and fast food restaurant. And it's a tentative parcel map to then divide the site into 3 parcels. The location is the southwest corner of Mitchell Road and Roding. This is the project site. You'll see it's right at the corner of Mitchell and Roding. Next site. It has a general plan land use designation of highway commercial and also has a zoning of highway commercial. So that means all of the uses are permitted under highway commercial land use designation as well as the highway commercial zoning designation. You'll see this is a pretty current site, vacant to the north It's vacant to the south. There's the newer shopping center complex to the west, and then you have Roding and other commercial uses to the east. Now, this is the current site plan. You'll notice that the gas station is in relatively same location as it was before, but now the Starbucks is in the middle, with the car wash being for the west of the site. And just a refresher, this is what the prior site plan looked like. So you'll see the gas station relatively in the same spot at the Roding and Mitchell corner. The car wash was in the middle, and then there were proposed commercial uses toward the west end of the site. And then the tentative map literally just splits it 3 ways. It siphons off the gas station, the car wash. Sorry, this map should have been flipped, but you see the gas station on the corner, Starbucks in the middle, and then the car wash. Next slide. So at this time, we're making that the commission make a recommendation that the project is exempt from environmental review per CEQA section 15332 infill development, and approve the conditional use permit amendment for the addition of the Starbucks drive-through and the relocation of the car wash on the previously approved project site, and approve the tentative parcel map for 3 commercial parcels. The applicant is here for questions, if you have them, or for staff. Thank you.
All right. Any comment from the applicant? Okay. The public hearing is now open. Is there anyone in the chambers that would like to comment on this item? Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you very much. John Warren, City of Surrey. I know probably that all of these businesses fit the zoning for that particular neighborhood. We have 2 Starbucks on that road between Hatch and Service already. We have how many gas stations between Hatch and Service already? We have how many car washes on Hatch Road, between Hatch Road on Mitchell down there? This will make the 5th car wash between Hatch Road and Service on Mitchell. You have 2 down at the Gateway Center. You have 1 there at Whitmore. And then between Whitmore and Hatch, you have the one at the Standard gas station. 5 car washes this will make, and probably 2 miles of road. Now, I'm sure that every parcel down there is zoned to have a car wash on it. And maybe that would be appropriate to the city to put about 20 of them down there. We don't really need 5 car washes in that stretch of road, even though it's zoned for it. We don't need another Starbucks. We don't need another gas station and convenience store. There's other businesses that we need, and I know it's not your job as the planning commission to go out and recruit those to come there. That falls to some other people in our city. Coming northbound, there's going to be a left turn lane pocket into that center just before the intersection of Roding Road. They would not allow that over at Morgan and Service when there was a big uproar about getting traffic from one side of the street to the other. But they're going to do it here, just like they did on Hatch Road at some locations. There should not be left turns prior to that intersection. So traffic can go up to the intersection, make a left-hand turn onto Roding, and come into the property from the entrance on Roding. We don't need these businesses there. I think it's too much for that location. But I know it's probably zoned for that. And you folks probably have to vote yes for that. But that's just my thought, and you should think about it too. We don't need 5 car washes on that stretch of roadway. They must be successful, otherwise this wouldn't be happening. But the big concern really is that left turn traffic in that little left turn pocket going northbound just prior to the Roding intersection. Think about that. It's a safety hazard. There's no reason for someone that's running that light coming southbound going to hit that person making that left-hand turn broadside. So that's a consideration. Thank you very much.
One comment I would add, this was already approved. This is just about swapping the two locations, correct? So it's just, yeah, right. Any other public comment?
Been a long day. Dave Pratt series. Yeah, I want to just go down on the car wash thing. I brought that up the last time when you all agreed to put the second one down there on Service and Mitchell Road. So now you're just talking about a block down the street. You want a third one. So now we're all these have all these car washes on Mitchell Road. And like he says there's too many turning lefts, trying to turn left in the heavy traffic. There's more of the traffic's going down Moore Road because Mitchell Road is terrible.
All right, any comments on Zoom?
I see no hands raised at this time.
Any emails?
No, I have not received any emails.
Okay. The public hearing is now closed. I will bring this item back to the commission for discussion. Oh, sorry, back to the applicant.
Good evening. I'm with the architectural firm, together with the applicant. Just to clarify, the left turn is about 400 feet from the corner. It's not the one you see when you turn left at the light. It's about 400 feet, so that's enough distance for any issues that you might have. That's all I want to clarify right now.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any motion?
I'll make a motion to approve condition 24-48 conditional use permit amendment and 24-6 tentative partial map.
So I had one question though, for the new layout, has there been because it shares adjacent stacking zones, so is there gonna be a traffic circulation study? Because I know they share like the internal circulation conflicts with the car wash and the Starbucks.
So we asked them to provide standard stacking for Starbucks, and you'll notice it's double stacking, so we were satisfied that it meets the queuing requirements. We asked them to provide data on Starbucks queuing, and this matched the queuing requirements, so we felt stacking won't be an issue because you can double stack. If you look at that site plan, and then it'll double stack in the center already, and there won't likely be any queuing onto the streets given where the Starbucks location is and the car wash, so we were comfortable.
Okay. I'll second the motion then.
Okay, Commissioner Johnson? Commissioner Jammu?
Aye.
Commissioner Gill?
Aye.
Motion passes 3-0.
Let me go get.
All right, moving on to new business, seeing none. Public meetings, none. Unfinished business, none. Matters initiated by the planning commission staff, none. Reports, anybody got any reports? Seeing none. Staff?
No reports. Thank you, Chair.
Okay. Shirley, you got a report?
I just want to say thank you. I'm a commissioner on the Stanislaus County Commission on Aging. And what you did with the assisted living, it was great. We are going to need much more of that in every city. There's a lot of us that are aging. In July, I'll be 89. So thank you.
Thank you, Shirley. All right, we will adjourn to our next regularly scheduled meeting on April 21st.